welcome live to May 5th, 2021 of the Fowler Show on this Hump Day Wednesday, I think it is. Hump Day Wednesday. Hope you're doing very well out there, wherever you're tuning in from, Manchester to Australia to New York, wherever you're listening to us or watching us from. Welcome to the show. We have another new person joining us. We've got a busy schedule to pack in now over the next few weeks. We're joined today by an author, a speaker, an influencer. I hope I've called all means. If I missed anything out, let me know. I hope I pronounced his second name correctly as well. It is a great guest of mine. His name is Ryan Foland. How are you doing?
I'm good. Well, the only thing you missed was that I'm also a ginger.
Yes.
And you got the name totally correct, so
good.
That's good.
That's good. Well, welcome to the show. I'm glad you decided to come on my show. And I'm continuing my wave of bringing on people who follow me on Twitter. Why not? We've done it previously, and I thought I saw your tweet a few days ago on the day you emailed, when I emailed you, and I thought, well, I don't really know much about you, but I want to bring you on the show because you got, your influencer, you all these different things, and I thought this would be a great chat to bring you to my viewers who have probably never even heard of you. But then by the end of this conversation, they'll know all about you and hopefully will follow you and read all about you and join your podcast and all that business. So here we go. Hello, he's just live chatted as well, which is great to see. So let's talk about this then. What inspired you to become a speaker and author? All that good stuff. And were you quite young? Did someone inspire you or looked up to, just say, before you joined the industry?
Well, great question. I think I've always been a bit of an extrovert. When I was young, it wasn't necessarily the case because I was really concerned with fitting in and belonging. One of the challenges that I had was my parents are educators. And so every summer we would disappear on vacation to Catalina Island, which is an island here off the coast of Southern California. It's about 25 miles away, so you see it, but it's just far enough where you get away from it all. And so as a kid, I would leave every summer for 2 to 3 months, and I'd come back. I'd have more freckles, I'd have bleach blonde hair, and I think it was easy for me to kind of be an outcast because I just wasn't there. So,
sorry.
And I think I was the only ginger in town, so it was easy for me to be pegged. And it may seem trivial if you think about it. Everybody gets made fun of as a kid, but it kind of gets to you when it's you.
Yeah.
And one of the things that there's plenty of stories that I can think of, but one that was a solution based was that my dad basically said, like, he knew I was being affected, and he's like, that's it, we're gonna go sign you up for karate right now. And I was like, okay. And karate was just awesome. And one of the first things that I learned is that you can't not communicate. And I realized that my physical presence, I was cowarding, or I was shy, and I wasn't sure how to handle. And so this was me communicating. So simple things like dropping your shoulders and standing up straight, and all of these like body movements that essentially manifest into stances, like a strong stance and a horse stance and a front stance and a punt. All these things.
Yeah. That
was the first time that I remember learning how valuable it was to communicate. And so I puffed up a little bit, and I became less of a target, and that was something that from a long time ago that I recognized. Now, when I was in college, I went in undeclared. That means I didn't know what I was going to study.
Right.
And my mom actually helped me choose my first set of courses. And I was just stressed out. I'm like, I don't know what I want to choose. It doesn't matter. Pick them. I went to one class on my schedule that my mom picked, and I didn't really look into it. And I show up, and it was this huge like theater. I was like, this is kind of cool. It ended up being Introduction to Dramatic Arts.
Interesting.
And I don't think before that moment I had ever really seen a play. It sounds stupid, but like we didn't go to plays. We went on the boat somewhere. So I'd never seen an opera. I think maybe I saw some music stuff with a school outing, but I didn't really understand theater at all. So of course I was distracted. I sat next to the cutest girl I could find, and I had this whole, flirtation that started with writing notes, and then I'd write on their notes, and then we'd play tic-tac-toe, and I was like, this is great. College is great. I'm meeting new girls. What's this class thing? And at the very end, the teacher said, and if you'd like extra credit, and my ears perked. Because in high school, I was all about extra credit. Like if a teacher didn't have extra credit, I would go ask them if I could do an extra credit project.
Yeah.
Favorite karate technique? Okay, flying jump sidekick. It's black belt ass, and I love a flying jump sidekick. And when I have a photo op, I actually break out the flying jump sidekick. And actually, Edward, you used that photo on it, so
I
it's
did.
very relevant. I
did.
right?
Yes. You're kicking my face out of the picture. That's why I picked it for the thumbnail, I think, as well.
So I recognized, hey, first day in college, I'll get some extra credit. I asked the girl that I was flirting with, I'm like, are you going to go do that thing? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, then it's a date. So I show up at the time and place. She wasn't there.
Oh, no.
I sat in the corner. She didn't show up. And I heard somebody call my name, a female voice. I was like, yeah, it wasn't her. But they led me over to this empty room, and it had hardwood floors and mirrors everywhere. It was a dance studio, which I didn't really realize. I was like, wow, this is weird. I sat in a chair. They handed me a piece of paper, and they said, okay, go ahead and read this. So I read it. Everybody laughed at me. I got super upset. I dropped the paper. I ran out of there. I got my skateboard, and I went home. I'm pretty sure I cried on the way home while I was skateboarding. The chick didn't show up. Everybody laughed at me. I was basically it was like college first day drama. So the reason I'm telling you this is because that extra credit was actually an audition for a play. And whatever I was reading was funny, and I didn't realize it. And that was sort of the purity of not knowing what I was doing. So they called me back, and I ended up being cast in a part of this play, and it was a remake of Sin City.
Got ya.
And they cast me as Marv, the big badass who kicks everybody's ass.
Oh, bad great part.
I'm like, this is awesome. You mean I get to do flying jump sidekicks and do all this stuff? And they're like, yes, well, we're trained actors, and so when we hit, we're very safe, and we do this. I'm like, screw that. Watch this. I'm going to kick you, grab my leg. Now I'm going to jump over and pretend like I hit you in the face. Like, all this stuff, and they're like, whoa. I was even like, hey, can we get some bottles? And there's like, let's get some candy bottles that look real, and I'll break bottles over your head. And they're like, yeah. So I was like, this is fun. What that led me to understand was the power of in-person theater. And it was such a powerful show. And then the next show was by William Mastrosimone about a school shooting.
Oh, yeah.
And so crazy, at UCSB, we had a school shooting that was the same week as this performance.
Oh, wow.
I'm playing the character of a student who kills in the play, and we actually had to we sat empty seats in the front row with flowers for all the people that got shot that week. And it was, I'm getting chills now, it was this like inception moment where I'm playing a killer that's reflecting the real life situation that's happening, and it was just like so powerful. And that moment to me, I was like, there's something here. There's something about communicating live in person. And I think that's when I really gained the confidence in my skills of presenting. And then I just studied, man. I studied Shakespeare. I took playwriting classes. And I thought I would be a Hollywood and film and TV producer. But I went to Hollywood, got internships, and they turned to broke-turnships. And I ended up having to leave the industry because I couldn't find out how to make money in it.
Got ya.
But I've always stayed involved. And so for me, speaking and being on stage taps into that initial power of moving people and connecting with them. And really, like, there's just something so powerful about that. So from karate as a kid to accidentally ending up at an audition in college, I just feel like I'm alive on stage, and I feel like there's this just a connection where you can really make an impact with people.
Yeah. What an interesting story, I have to say. What a great answer, by the way. I like the answer, and under the sad circumstances, but I'm glad that they were able to pay their own tribute to the people who have sadly lost their lives in that shooting you said. But I do hope the movie, not the movie, but the play got over with the audience who attended it back in your.
It did. I remember having a number of people come up to me afterwards, and it was a lot of emotion involved. And the play struck a chord with what was really happening. It's like, art imitating life or life imitating art, and it just became powerful. And so stories are powerful. That's how we relate. We tell people our stories when they ask us what we did this weekend. We listen to stories and are compelled by other people and what they've learned, and then we tell ourselves stories, and that's really how we see the world. And so to be able to speak in general is really it's really a special experience. But I've chosen to talk about really two main topics. One is about being your own authentic self, owning the moments that don't go right, and then core communication. When somebody asks you, what do? Like, do you just babble on like a rambling fool, or do you actually tell them what you do and engage in conversation? So for me, I'm all about simplicity. Simply being you, having a simple message, and making it easy for people to get to know you a little bit. And that's what I'm most excited about, is helping people realize they've got everything they need. You don't have to keep up with the Kardashians. You don't have to, you don't have to have a bunch of followers. It's more about what kind of a community do you build, and what kind of a relationship do you have with those people who are in your community.
Mm. Most definitely. And of course, before we went live here, Ryan did help me to figure out actually how to reach other people than your followers and my followers to the show. So I'll be using that technique now more often. I used to do it years ago. I'm thinking, and I didn't realize that I was attracting different people. But then I saw other verified people just typing at this person's on the show right now to tune in, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to use your other technique because you're an expert and, you are an influencer at the end of the day. So anything you say, I will listen and I will take your word because...
take my word as inspiration,
yes.
But make it your own.
Yes.
And I think there's what's fascinating about just being alive in this time is that we have so many tools at our fingertips, literally at our fingertips.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for hacks and apps, you're missing the point. These technologies and these platforms are a great way for amplifying your message or creating more outreach. But you can't forget that it all starts with, like, what do you want to be known for?
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, is sort of finding your own unique space and being like, this little box right here, I have the opportunity to own this box. I don't have control over outside of it. And I think when you really own that and you become okay with it, then, life's a lot less stressful. And my book is called Ditch the Act. And that's exactly what it all is. Is stop trying to put on an act or focus on what you think other people think you should do. Do what you would like to do and position yourself in a way that fits with your own mission, vision, value, goals, and you do that enough and people will get to know you. And if people get to know you, it's up to them whether or not they like you.
Yeah.
And Edward, not everybody has to like you.
No, that's very true. That's very true indeed. Now on Google, when people type in your name on Google, and we'll get to your book in a few minutes as well.
Sure.
But on Google, when someone types in your name, now I can understand why this comes up. It says you're an actor, okay? Don't know why they call that, but I can understand why they would call you an actor. Somebody from Google must have seen your play or your plays you've been in and thought, he's an actor. So
well, when I realized that I had to leave Hollywood because my dreams got busted,
oh, God.
It didn't mean that I left the arts.
Yeah.
And I'm actually still involved with a troupe that I helped start in college. And we've had a number of successes. We actually have a documentary that we filmed over 10 years. and it documents the Tupamaro, which is sort of a vigilante gang in Venezuela. But
Interesting.
you can also see them as revolutionaries that are fighting against corruption.
Oh, good.
And it's actually available on Amazon Prime. We won a number of awards, including the Golden Palm Award at the Hollywood Film Festival, and I'm still involved with projects and creative outlets,
Oh, good.
but I'm just not worried about trying to get paid for them. And
I don't blame
that's
you.
that's the difference right there.
Yeah.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you're doing a lot of success in many different fields. You know, that's why you're a busy man at what you do. See, but I'm very grateful you made time for us today here on the show. So when you speak in front of hundreds of people, when you first started to do that, were you a bit anxious, a bit scared, or were you quite used to it after performing in front of for plays and other things as well, but or not?
I'm still nervous. I'm still scared. Don't think that goes away. The difference is that I'm better, or I'm more trained because I have more times at bat on translating the nerves and anxiety and fear into excitement.
Gotcha.
I'll give you an example. I was giving a presentation to a very important group of innovators.
Right.
It was a very small group of fellows, and they were very hand selected, and I was very nervous to be in front of them. And I was just like, I'm surrounded by these brilliant people, and I start like questioning myself. And I remember when I started the presentation, I literally said, "Okay, hey everybody," and I froze. And so I kept talking. I was frozen. I was like, "Wait a minute, am I frozen right now?" And they're like, "Yes." So here I am, and my tech breaks. I'm like, oh, so now like my nerves turn to fear, and I'm like talking while I'm trying to redo my camera and all this stuff. And then it got to a point where I got it fixed, and I had a section where I was going to do a green screen. I'm like, "I'm sorry, the green screen's not working." And then I was like, "Wait a minute, I don't have my green screen up." I was so flustered because I have my green screen here that like I pull up like this.
Oh yes.
But
very cool.
But I forgot to have it up, and so I was just like, scrambled and everything. So even to this day, nerves are real. And I learned a lot from that presentation. And one of the things that it helped remind me, and one of the reasons why I'm sharing the story, is that it's one thing to practice and prepare, right? You've got to talk, you've got to speech to your company or to people, or even for this podcast, you're preparing. But then once the pressure's on, everything's different. When something goes wrong, once you're live, it's like, oh my gosh, what's happening now?
Yeah.
So one thing that I've learned to do, and this last sort of set of faux pas reminded me, it's all about practicing under pressure, because that's when things change. Here's a question. Cool. Are you a public speaker? Do you consider yourself a public speaker?
That's a good question. I would like to say so I am, but in a small scale.
Well, you have to give me a final answer. Is it official, yes or no?
I say yes. I would say yes, I'm a public speaker, but you would probably say wrong answer.
No. I have a buzzer. Okay.
Oh yeah. There you go.
But this is not a buzzer for you, because if you speak in public, then you are a public speaker. It's a scientific fact that you cannot argue either. If you speak in public, if you open your mouth in public, you are technically a public speaker.
Okay, then yes.
And one of the biggest things that holds people back from their potential in communicating is saying, "I'm not a public speaker." If you talk with, whether it's your parents, maybe you talk with your pets, maybe you talk with, your wife, your loved ones, your children, you are always on stage. You are presenting. But I think the big difference is when there's hundreds of people or thousands of people, all of a sudden the pressure increases, and then all of a sudden you get nervous, and then you forget that you're really just connecting with other people.
Yeah.
And so I think that we all naturally have strengths in communicating, but we hold ourselves back when we don't allow ourselves to realize that, yes, we are public speakers. So I think that this is also an analogy of like finding your own voice and making sure that you value your voice and that you know that your voice matters. And I think that's something that's so important today. And social media is a great way to share your voice and to share your insights. But there's also so much negativity and trolling and things that's just complicated. But I would say that if you are listening to this today, and before this moment, you didn't consider yourself a public speaker, now you do. So what are you going to do with that?
Use it for all the good things and to get eased and don't feel as pressured, when talking, kind of thing.
Exactly. And help translate your nerves into excitement, because a lot of it's the same chemical reaction in your brain. It's just how you interpret it, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes with being prepared. The final thing I'll say, unless you want to talk more about public speaking, and this piece of advice can go far. To be a better speaker, speak more. To be a better podcaster, podcast more. To be a better writer, write more. And so I want people to remember that the reason why I am as comfortable as I am on stage is because I've been doing this for probably 6-7 years, seriously, like dedicated to this being something I'm invested in. And so whether it's writing, whether it's speaking, whether it's making videos, however you best translate your voice and however you feel comfortable, like we all have different strengths, it's about doing more of that to get more comfortable. I bet your first couple podcasts were a hot mess, and then that's okay.
Believe me. Actually, when I first began, they were actually quite good. But when I had to transition from pre-recorded to live, there's been a few hiccups every now and now. So yes, it's been a bit of a hiccup, but we get through it. I just call them bloopers. Anything can happen on this show. That's why I like to do it, because anything can happen. It's uncut, unedited, uncensored. I just enjoy it because I love the unpredictable way of something could go wrong at any time.
Yeah, that's life. That's exciting. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what makes life exciting.
Yes.
And it's also what can make you nervous. So again, how do you translate? But I still get nervous, man. It can be nerve-wracking. But the more you do it, the better you'll turn those nerves into things that you really get excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've done some public speaking in front of not as many people as you, but I've done some public speaking, and it's quite nervous at first, but then the more times you do it, you get easier at expressing your views and expressing what you're talking about, and that's how I felt anyway when I was doing it after the first time. It got easier every time. But I mean, you must speak in front of, I think, what's been the biggest amount of people you've spoken in front of so far pre the last year? I know you've been doing it virtually, and actually I prefer doing it virtually, because I've done one virtually before, and I felt much more easier because you're not in a room in person. I felt, and it felt easier speaking in front of a video camera. But things, as you said before, can go wrong.
Yeah, the largest crowd I've spoken in front of is about a 4,000 person crowd.
Wow, that's a lot.
And it was all college students, and I got riled up and was jumping around and just playing towards that energy, and it was pretty cool.
And of course to try and keep them engaged as well, because I bet many of them may not have been interested in the topic or something, or maybe we want to dive into the interests you're in, kind of thing. Maybe.
Yeah, and it's hard when there are that many people, because there's just like there's a lot of space.
Yeah.
So people in the way back, you're just like a little blip, right? But I think what's interesting is in this new digital age, you could speak in front of one person, like you and me right now.
Yeah.
We're speaking in front of one person, but technically, this could have a huge lifetime audience. So I think that the number of people is relative to the amount of pressure you may feel, but the opportunity is that the content that you create, I call it brand crumbs, whether it's a video or an article, the amazing opportunity of how many people can see that, your audiences continue to grow. You have videos that continue to get an audience well past that live initial. And I think it's just a crazy time in the world where that's the reality right now.
Yeah, yeah. And the funny thing was, when I actually started doing these YouTube videos, it began in 2019 when I created this, when I officially started videoizing it, and I was one of the first people to be doing it this way. But then in 2020, everybody had to do it, so there was no choice. But I mean, I'm going to say this: I'm one of the one of the people who started this first, where I was
Pioneers. You're a
yeah,
pioneer.
one of the pioneers. I think I could be wrong. If I am wrong, I apologize. But I'm just taking credit for what I believe. I started in 2019 before the whole world had to do it because there's no choice. But I can't wait for the other people to go back to normal, where they can do it back in person, where I can then say we're still doing it this way. I find it easy doing it this way because I can bring on people from all around the world. I don't have to fly to that location and meet them in person. I'm being a bit lazy, obviously, but it's cost effective, I think. But anyway, and it's a clear signal.
Well, real quick, where are you? You're
I'm
in UK.
I'm in Manchester, UK.
You?
You're in Los Angeles or California or somewhere like that.
Yeah, how close are you to Reading?
Ooh, quite down south. So that's about maybe 2 hours or 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours away.
Okay. Because I studied at Reading,
Nice.
so I spent a bit of time over there, and any excuse to go back and visit. Maybe when I go back, we'll have to meet somewhere in the middle.
Yes, we can do that. That can work, I think. If with what we can do, because it'd be much easier, and cost efficient.
I mean, who knows at this point? But anyways,
Well,
the world has gotten a lot
Yeah.
smaller. It's in these crazy times.
Exactly. And there's more of my guest here, Ryan Foland, in just a moment. I'm just gonna do this one moment, but there is still other people coming on the show. We got a busy schedule for you. You may know some of these people, so let's just see if Ryan knows these people. We will ask him in a minute. But this Thursday at 6 p.m., 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. on the West Coast, we've got Eugene, a former WWE wrestler. He's joining us on the show. Next Wednesday, we've got boxer Umar Sadiq. He's joining us on Wednesday, 6 p.m. UK time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. on the West Coast. Then to kick it, and then to end off that fantastic week next week, we've got Matty from the band Rev Theory. He's joining us next Friday, 6 p.m. UK time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. on the West Coast. Join us if you can. Did you have a clue who any of the people were? Yeah, I mentioned that.
No, but they look pretty cool. I mean, so I was a wrestler in high school, but not
the
WWF.
Yeah, I get you. The actual like the Olympic wrestling kind of thing. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And then Umar, he looks like an ultimate fighter. So I've trained in MMA. I used to teach Muay Thai kickboxing as all a result of my martial arts and stuff. And I can't say that I'm in a band, although I do rap every once in a while. So I've got some serious connections.
Is there anything you can't do? You are a one of a kind of people. You're.
No, there's a lot of things I can't do. There's a lot of things I can't do.
I don't see that. I think if someone said, "Can you do this?" I think you could try it. I don't think.
I could try it. No, this is true. I could try it, and that goes to a larger point of trying and just progress. I think. And I'll throw up kind of a fun little visual here, but any progress is progress. I don't know if you see that right side up or if it's backward.
Yeah, any progress.
Is that backwards?
Any progress, still progress.
Yeah. And so no matter how you spin it, you just reminded me that as long as you are willing to try and put in the effort and do things, and you do that over time, then it could very much be an actual reality. But I think that you heard me. I was like, I can't do anything. I can't do everything. And you reminded me, you're like, no, if you give it a try, you can. So I'll take my own advice. I just need to do more of something if I want to get better at it. But I got enough stuff going on right now. And when
you do,
if I have a chance, I just want to get on a sailboat, which is where I'm going tomorrow. I'm jumping on my sailboat for 4 days to go for a little solo sail around Catalina. And sometimes the best thing to do is just like chill the F out and do nothing.
I don't blame you there. You're like, well, one of the biggest, one of the busiest people in the US. Of course, you remind me a bit like a guy called Pat McAfee. You probably don't know who he is. He was a football player, American football player. He is an analyst. He is a commentator. He's got his own show. he's everywhere. And you might be just like him in a good way, but not in a bad way, obviously. But I mean, in a good way. You've got you're very busy in all these different projects, and it's good. It keeps you busy, makes time flies, doesn't it? Which is that's the good thing, really. I think
it does. But the thing I'll also remind you is that one of the things I'm passionate about is simplicity, and when I help people build authentic personal brands, the hardest thing is to simplify it. And I think we all do a lot of stuff. But I really fundamentally believe that people don't care as much about what you do as much as they care about the problem that you solve. And so, sure, I do a lot of stuff, but I really focus on solving one problem. And that problem is if you can't communicate, whether it's your idea or who you are, in a compelling way, a succinct, compelling way, then you're going to bore people. You won't gain interest. Your idea is never going to take off. You won't get that job you want. You're not going to get the success that you're after. And so I think we have a tendency to overcomplicate things. And so although it may seem like I'm all over the place, what keeps me centered and what is the through line is the problem that I'm most passionate about solving. And that allows me to have a focused brand while I have these multiple things that I enjoy doing.
Good answer. I do like that answer, and it's inspirational as well. To everyone maybe listening to this or watching this may think, might be wondering how I can become, a part of this group of like a speaker or an influencer. So hopefully they learn something out of this today.
Well, hold on. Everyone is an influencer in their own right. And again, this is just like, just like asking you, are you a public speaker? You were hesitant, but then you said yes. If I were to ask you if you're an influencer, what would you say? Yes or no?
No, I would not. I am not an influencer, yeah.
You got a buzzer on that one. And here's why. And I'm sort of being cheeky, but this is the reality, is that you have influence over your close friends, your family. You have influence over people who are reading your social media. You might just not know it. And so instead of looking at, I want to become an influencer, I think it's more about recognizing that you already have influence and that maybe you could flex your influence a little bit more. Maybe you could be more conscious of your influence. Maybe you can influence others towards larger support systems that you support, right? I want people to realize that we are all like worthy, and we all have a message to share. We're all ourselves, and our stories, the things that have gone wrong in our life, the things that haven't worked out, that is what builds our experience. And your experience is what gives you your expertise. So if you want to become a speaker, then find out how to share your story and your experience in a way where people can learn from it. That's the simple formula. A keynote is just a series of stories and lessons. A TEDx talk is just a series of stories and lessons. I've given 4 TEDx talks. I've got 3 clients right now that are giving TEDx talks at TEDx Water Street on Wednesday.
Oh, cool.
They have their stories. It's just stories and lessons. So own your whole story, be proud of who you are, and tap into your own influence, right? I just want us to recognize that, it's not just about the people with the most followers or the people that are self-proclaimed influencers. We all have influence over other people and ourselves. Be an influencer for yourself is a good way of looking at it, right? Stop worrying about everybody else, right? Focus on being your authentic self, and those people who resonate with the message will naturally gravitate towards you.
Good advice. I like it. And because the reason why I said no, right, was because they say to become an influencer, you need 5,000 or 10,000 followers on social media. That's when.
Who says that?
That's what I've heard. That's what I heard. That's what I. This is the information I heard off some news site.
Hey, I've got less than 5,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, that's true.
Am I no longer an influencer?
But the thing is, you are, because you have like 200,000 followers on Twitter. So I don't think Instagram cares. I don't think so.
Okay. I'm going to push back again. Have you heard of the concept 1,000 true
I've
fans?
not. No. Enlighten me.
Okay, look that up. 1,000 true fans. It's this hypothetical concept that if you have 1,000 people, not 5,000, but 1,000 people who are true fans, like true followers, they're like, I like this guy Edward. If he puts a book out, I'm gonna buy it. If he has a monthly membership, I'm gonna buy it. If he's got a product, I'm gonna buy it. If he's got a live stream, I'm gonna show up. Only 1,000. If you have 1,000 people, you can make $1 million, because if those 1,000 people pay you $99 a month for whatever collective services that you offer, that adds up real quick and you can make a lot of money. It's not about the quantity of followers, it's about the quality. Look, I have a coaching business, but I don't take on a ton of coaching clients. I just charge a lot of money to make sure that I'm able to dedicate the time and resources needed to those people. So for me, it's not as much about scale. It's about making it work for me and making sure that that I'm really delivering to those true fans or followers. So I just want to sort of pop a hole in that bubble. Followers is just and here, I'm gonna go one level deeper. Are you on Instagram at all? Do you do Instagram?
I am on Instagram. Yes, I just use it to post my show, really. So I use a story. I use the posting bit, and I like a few things. That's about it. I don't go live on there or anything like that.
Okay, so if you've noticed from the platform standpoint, it used to be when you're looking through your feed, you could see the number of how many people liked the post, right?
That's right.
But that's no longer the case.
Well, it is for me. I can still see how many people liked it.
But publicly, it doesn't have that big number.
Oh, okay. But like, I'm on it now, and I can see on. Let's just go on this post, right? Random post. I just opened the app. So there's this person works for the BBC Radio 1, and I can see it tells me that this random person's liked it. Plus
that's the thing.
55 other people. So that's 56 people in total.
But is that when you clicked on it to keep going, or?
That's just from the actual post. So it says.
Okay.
I would show it to you, but.
My point here is that Instagram used to just be big time. Like, here's how many people liked it, and that's actually removed now. It's a little bit further down where you see the people that liked it and other people, and you can learn more. If you look at stories last week, if you are on your own page and you're looking at stories, you can see how many people saw it. You've got to go one click deeper now. So the platforms themselves are trying to downplay the number of likes, and they're trying to create more relevancy for engagement. Oh, yeah. You know, with all these social media platforms, it's about engagement, not necessarily just numbers. And again, I just want to say that I disagree with the 5,000 mark for an influencer. And I really believe we all have our own spheres of influence. It's just like admitting that you're a public speaker. If you share your thoughts with other people, I think that inherently makes you a bit of an influencer.
Yeah, I agree now. And you've lightened up my expectations, and you've changed my mind on many subjects. So I appreciate that. So you've got about 8 minutes or so before you have to dash off. So if you can answer these questions fast as you can. So talking about what made you how did you get so many famous people then following you on your social media? Because I bet you've as you say, you just reached out on Twitter and Instagram and whatnot, and just saying what you need to say, and then it has attracted loads of people to you because loads of people were inspired by and believe in what you say. This is very true, because again, you are an expert and you know what you're talking about. This is the main thing. If you don't have a clue what you're talking about, what's the point of being around, kind of thing, because nobody's going to believe you just rambling about loads of nonsense, kind of thing. So you're doing something correct.
So I think the question was, how do so many people follow me, or how many famous people? Okay, I would say it is a result of, I'll give 3 answers, because I think 3 is the magic answer. It'll still be short. Number 1 is because I create a lot of content. I think my following is directly proportional to the amount of brand crumbs that I leave out there in the world. The second thing I think is a driving force is that I've gotten a lot of media features. So I've been featured in Forbes, I've been featured in Forbes 6 or 7 times, in Fortune, in Mashable, in Small Business News, in Inc., and Entrepreneur, and all these magazines. And so when you're profiled in these larger features, it gives you a certain sense of validation, and people will follow you. I think that has led to me being verified on all platforms, and having that little blue tick mark has an inherent trust along with it. And so it's a lot easier for people to follow me if they already think that I'm worth being followed. Okay, that would be number 2. And the third thing is that I have no shame in reaching out, connecting, and following other people.
Yeah.
I think that a follow is a tap on the shoulder. And when you follow somebody, they go, who is this? And because I have the validation and I have the blue tick mark and I'm creating content, I think it's easy for them to follow back.
Same with me, guy. I done that. I thought, you're verified, you got other people following you, you're legit. I just follow you back because you saw something in my profile, and I will support you back, kind of thing. And that's why we can now meet in the flesh. I wish I was able to bring you on months and years ago, you know. So I hope you do come back on the show again. Let's talk about your book. You kind of plugged it earlier in the show. Where did you find inspiration and thoughts to put into your new book? Because this is not the first book you've released. You've released, I think, a few books now, haven't you? And
yeah, this is my first real book. This is published by McGraw-Hill, and the quick backstory is that my former business partner and I actually were approached by a publisher saying, could you write a book about personal branding? So we wrote what we thought was going to be a good book, and they went, no thanks. So we said, well, let's try again. And they were saying, you need some sort of magic sauce. Like, you need something that's unique. What are you guys doing that's different than everybody else? And when we really looked at it, for me, when my brand started to actually get traction is when I started to be real about what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when I stopped faking it. And when, there's a funny story about how I had a really big pimple before a really big talk, and I was really paranoid about it. But I shared it in a tweet before I went up on stage, and that single tweet about me having a pimple was the most engaged tweet of the entire conference. Wow. This week, I tweeted about how, when you take things and you write them on Post-it notes, and then you have no idea about what they say. So I literally tweeted that out, and that's been the most engaged tweet this week. Everybody's like, that. Oh my gosh, I can relate. I
saw that on Twitter, yeah. I think that was a tweet which I saw, which prompted me to reach out to you. I think it was that tweet, so yeah.
Well, but see, this is what makes you relatable. And so, like, if I'm a professional speaker, like, you might think, like, I shouldn't show any weakness, and I should only talk about, like, all my successes. But no, when you actually ditch the act, and you're like, dude, I can't read my own post notes. My coffee keeps getting cold. I've got a pimple on my forehead. Like, I'm sort of in a funk today. As soon as I started to share, like, what was really going on, to ditch the act, that's when I started to relate with people, and that was attraction. So for the book, it was that concept, that single concept. If you want to build a brand, stop trying to, like, mimic somebody else and be who you're not. Just, like, own your process, because people don't care about your story of success. They care about how they see themselves in your story. And so if you also have sloppy handwriting on Post-it notes, we're homies. And that's what makes me a person, and that's what is easier to sort of, like, not put on any type of an act. And I'm just myself.
Yeah, I agree there. Quickly, because I know you got about a minute before we have to say goodbye. So 2 more questions for you. One is from my live chatter. He wants to know your favorite movie of all time. And my other question is, who would you suggest to come on this show after you? And I do hope you can come back on for part 2 sometime, because there is a few more questions I do have for you which we couldn't get to in this podcast.
Okay, so good questions. My favorite movie of all time, I think, has to be The Never-Ending Story. I think that there's something magical about that in my youth. There's something about Falcor. There's something about that as just a magical, willing suspension of disbelief, and it's just such a fun movie. So that's what I'd say. And then as far as the next person to have on your show, man, I've got a lot of great people in my network. Okay. Are you interested in meeting any type of particular person in any type of particular industry?
Anything, anybody. I'm not fussed. We've had on music people, actors. I'm a pretty open book. So.
All right. Well, how about a storyteller who is a video editor, and he claims to be the anti-preneur?
Okay. Interesting.
His name is Dan Bennett. He's a friend. He's a video editor. He comes top of mind because I just was meeting with him earlier this morning. But I think he could shed some interesting light on what it means to tell a story, and some insights into, how video is just so important these days.
Well, thank you for the suggestions. I will definitely reach out and see what he's about, and see if he'd be interested to come on the show. He has no choice now because he just got a shout out here live. So thank you very much for that, and hello, yep. Dan. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, Ryan, and I do hope you do come back on the show again at some point in the near future to discuss the other questions I do have for you, because I know you're quite a busy person. So it's been a pleasure, and I hope.
I got an idea. Let me wrap it up for us. How about that?
But before you do that, let me just say your social medias have been on the screen throughout the show. You can find them on Facebook, Ryan Foland, Twitter, Ryan Foland, and Ryan.Foland on Instagram.
And my website is ryan.online. Super easy.
It is, isn't it? There you go. Now you can lead us out.
All right. Here is the deal. Let me give it to you real. The key to connection is to learn to reveal, because you are not perfect and neither am I. And that is the exact reason that we see eye to eye, because everybody's different, but we're all the same. To be perfectly imperfect is how you win the game. And if you only showcase good and do not share the bad, you will miss connections that you never knew you had. There we go.
Thank you, and good night from both of us.